You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons too. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 21. By day, she was Sister Annette, golden-voiced, angel-faced, and clothed in modesty. By night, she was fire, fury red wig, sequined heels, and skin oiled under violet lights. The congregation at Christ the Solid Rock Ministry loved her like a daughter of Zion. Pastor Ejike often said she was the sound of heaven trapped in mortal lungs. When Annette led worship, even the oldest women wept as if heaven had brushed their shoulders. They never suspected she hid something behind her harmonies, a life soaked in shame and secret. Every Friday night, a different stage awaited her. Not the polished altar with wooden carvings of doves and a velvet pulpit, but the mirrored runway lined with dollar bills and lustful eyes. The club was called Heaven's Gate, an irony that made her stomach churn every time she passed its glowing red sign. Annette had not always been two-faced. At 22, she was fresh out of the university, jobless and hungry in Lagos. Her mother, who had long battled diabetes, passed away a year before. Her father had left them years prior. She was alone, no roof, no rent, and no rhythm to keep her life from collapsing. One hot evening, after being rejected from yet another interview, she sat at the bus stop weeping quietly when Sasha came by. "Girl, you're too fine for the cry. What's wrong?" Sasha was bold, beautiful, and wore gold-like skin. She had a Mercedes, long nails, and the kind of money that looked like it rained from heaven. She offered Annette a ride and a cold bottle of water. It was the first act of kindness Annette had experienced in weeks. They became friends. Weeks later, Sasha invited her to Heaven's Gate. "I'm not asking you to do anything. Just come and see for yourself." Annette swore she wouldn't go up that stage. She swore it like a vow to God, like she entered a covenant. But hunger has a way of loosening your morals. When her landlord gave her 2 days' notice and her account balance dropped to 218 naira, she returned to Sasha. And that night, fire was born. At first, Annette drew boundaries. No full nudity, no private rooms, just dance. She consoled herself. David danced, Miriam danced, even angels danced before God. But in her case, she danced before the immoral eyes of men, not God. And how dare you dance in front of God while stripping naked? The voice whispered. But over time, the line blurred. Money whispered and shame shrank. Tips doubled when she bent a little more, smiled a little deeper. She told herself, "I will quit soon. Just one more rent cycle, one more saving goals. God sees my heart." By Sunday morning, she was back at the altar, swaying in a flowing gown, eyes closed, lifting praises to the same God she betrayed on Friday. And no one knew except one. During a revival service in March, a guest preacher visited, Prophet Ikenna from Enugu. He was blind in one eye, short-tempered, and unapologetically prophetic. His sermons were like whips lashed with money. As he walked down the aisle mid-sermon, he stopped abruptly near the choir stand. "You," he pointed. The girl with the voice of an angel and the garment of devils. Gasp echoed across the pews. Annette froze. You serve God on the altar and demons in the darkness. Your gift is fire, but your fire is split. God is warning you. Two roads cannot be walked forever. The silence that followed was thicker than oil. Her secret was out. But still, she smiled, bowed her head, and quietly whispered, he must be talking to someone else. The months that followed were filled with contradictions. She began praying more, she fasted, she tried quitting. Twice, she threw her heels in the gutter and deleted Sasha's number. But bills kept resurrecting her weaknesses. Then she would dance, then cry, sing, then praise, then plunge into her pit again. She was trapped. One night, after a club shift, she saw herself in the mirror backstage. The wig was crooked, makeup smeared, glitter sticking to her collarbone. She stared at herself for a long while. Then she opened the Bible app. Romans 6 verse 1 stared back. Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. And she wept. One Friday, a new customer requested her for a private room. Rich, quiet, mysterious. She hesitated, but Sasha whispered, he's a big tipper. Do it. Inside the VIP lounge, she danced like she always did, detached, mechanical, and distant. But something was different. The man didn't tip. He didn't speak. He watched. He watched her like he knew her. At the end, he leaned in close and whispered, your gift doesn't belong here. Her heart stopped. She looked up. It was Pastor David, the assistant pastor of her church. Her knees buckled. I didn't come here for pleasure, he said softly. I came here for you. Back in church that Sunday, she avoided his eyes, but he called her aside after service. I've known for a while, he said gently, but I wanted God to be the one to convict you. Tears welled up in her eyes. I'm so ashamed, she whispered. I'm not here to condemn you. You can't serve both kingdoms. You need to choose. She cried for the first time in months without makeup, money, or music. He prayed with her, but he didn't promise that it would be easy. The next few weeks were war. Her body craved the club, the lights, the money, the escape, but her spirit clung to the altar. She took a job as a receptionist, 45,000 a month. Barely enough for food, but enough to stay clean. She avoided Sasha's calls, she blocked Heaven's Gate, she joined the prayer team. But the devil does not retreat quietly. One night, she received a brown envelope under her door. Inside, photos of her dancing at the club. Blackmail. A note said, come back or the church sees this. Her hands trembled. She had one choice. Return and hide or confess and be free. The next Sunday during worship, she stopped mid-song. Her voice cracked. I need to say something, she said into the mic. The congregation paused. I've been living a lie. I sang on this altar while dancing in sin. Not just dancing, stripping. I lived a double life. Murmurs exploded. But she pressed on. I won't hide anymore. I won't dance between two gods. I'm sorry, I am done. She stepped down, removed her robe, and laid it at the altar. She expected stones, but who dare cast the stone when everybody sins? But what came was silence, and then one clap, then two, and the whole church stood and applauded her, not her sin, but her courage. Pastor Ejike walked up, hugged her, and whispered, Grace just broke a chain. Months passed, Annette began counseling other young women. She spoke to youth groups. Her testimony spread. Her voice returned purer, stronger. She recorded a worship album titled Beauty for Ashes. Annette now tells her story boldly. She often ends her message with this: you can't serve both kingdoms. You may think you're serving, but you're slowly dying. One day, the mask will fall. Choose now and choose life. Behold, I have given to you good and evil, and I pray you choose good. Because she learned something the hard way. Salvation saves you, but submission transforms you. When Sasha walked into the church that Sunday, she wore dark shades and trembling pride. Her gold chains were replaced by a simple scarf. She sat in the last pew, invisible and exposed all at once. Annette was leading worship. This time, no glitter, just glory. The words from her mouth weren't just lyrics, they were lifelines. You pulled me out from the fire, called me by my name. I was lost in shame, but you broke every chain. Tears rolled down Sasha's cheeks. For the first time, the club queen didn't feel powerful. She felt soothed by grace. After service, she waited by the side gate, awkward and afraid. Why didn't you tell me? She asked when Annette approached. Annette hugged her. Would you have believed me? Sasha said nothing, only nodded slowly. And then she said the words no one ever expected from her lips. Help me start over. As word spread, not everyone celebrated Annette's confession. Some members left the church. Some called her a disgrace. Some of the other side of the church broke out. Some said Pastor Ejike should never have allowed her to sing again. Even Deaconess Mabel stood during the women's meeting and said, we cannot let Jezebel stand on the holy ground. But Pastor Ejike silenced the rumors and murmurs with one sentence. Grace is not approval of sin. It is God's hand pulling sinners out of it. Still, the storm raged. Annette endured stirs, whispers, and the occasional cold shoulders. She wanted to hide again. Shame is persisted, but this time she stood firm. If Jesus forgave me, no man's frown will make me sit down. 1 month later, the church hosted a youth revival. Annette was invited to give her testimony. She nearly declined. Well, she hesitated, but Sasha encouraged her. There is another girl out there who needs to hear this. So, she stood. She told her story raw and unfiltered. From hunger to heals, from secret to surrender. The auditorium was silent. When she finished, one girl stood up, sobbing. I do webcam shows at night, she said, and I sing in my church choir too. Another confessed to sugar daddies. Another admitted to abortions. That night, over 17 young women came forward, not just to cry, but to repent. Pastor Ejike wept behind the pulpit. The revival became revolution. Annette started a ministry called Grace in High Heels, a fellowship for girls with broken past and secret lives. They met every Saturday in the church youth hall. They prayed, shared stories, cooked together, and healed. They welcomed prostitutes, dancers, influencers addicted to approval, and girls who had grown up pretending for the church. They didn't bring judgment, they brought Jesus. The group became a safe haven. It even caught the attention of local media. The choir girl who changed the city became a headline on blogs and radios. Some praised, others criticized. But Annette smiled. You know you're walking like Christ when people both love and hate you. One afternoon, Annette was walking through a market when she saw someone she hadn't seen in years. her father. He was older now, grayer. He was sitting on a mat, begging. Their eyes met. Annette, he croaked. She wanted to walk away. This was the man who abandoned them when her mother got sick. But grace had taught her something deeper than pain. She knelt, held his trembling hand, and said, "Come with me." She took him home, bathed him, fed him. He wept on her floor and asked for forgiveness. "I thought you'd never look at me again." "I would have said the same about God," she replied. Not all stories are straight lines. Sasha, despite her progress, slept one night. She disappeared for 3 days and returned broken. "I went back," she confessed. "I felt ugly again, unworthy. I needed to feel thin." Annette didn't shout. She sat quietly and said, "Tell me everything." Sasha sobbed through her story. Annette reminded her, grace is not one-time soap. It's a river. We just need to keep jumping in it. Together they prayed again. They fasted for 7 days. Sasha never returned to the club again. Fire never died, but she was reborn. Not in a club, but in Christ. Annette used her dancing not to seduce, but to lead a dance ministry. Young girls expressed joy, not shame. Movement became worship. Art became healing. One day, she visited Heaven's Gate, not to work, but to witness. She gave flyers outside. Some mocked her, others accepted them silently. She met a girl at the door, trembling in fake lashes and borrowed heels. "Don't do it, there is still time." The girl cried, dropped her purse, walked away. One Sunday, Annette gave her final testimony before leaving to serve as a missionary in South Africa. She stood before the church, now filled with faces who once doubted her but now celebrated her. She said, "Christ saved me twice, once from hell, once from myself. I tried to live both lives, but the cross has only one direction. You either carry it or walk away from it." She paused. Some of you are like how I was. Polished lips, gospel voices, but hidden skeletons in silence. Her eyes scanned the crowd. "Come out. Shame cannot survive in the light. You're not too dirty. You're just one step from freedom." Her final words, a letter from Annette. To the girl wearing 2 masks. "I know you. I was you. You think it's balance, but it's a bondage. You think you are in control, but you're crumbling. Sin feels sweet until it changes you, and shame grows in the silence you refuse to break. But listen, Jesus doesn't just want your Sunday. He wants your Fridays, your secret, your scars, your stings. If he could reach me in a club where I sold dignity for survival, he can reach you anywhere. The altar isn't just for the holy, it's for the hungry. Come back home.
Please subscribe to watch more of our videos. Thank you.